Country people, I throw salute. As na sabi am, the one na undaunted pidgin news, place where tori no dey hide. Na that so. Shake no dey. Na me tori pikin su, aka talk am all. I don come again, make we match fire. Country people, tori for today na that so. Today wey na country Sunday for hometown, as una sabi am, the country say bibi na mami water country Sunday. Yesterday, Bobe Titus Abang, wey na big man for Bello Quarter, don query. Republic dem English the query grandpa bia say make e fix thing wey e spoil am for country. Say dem dey suffer plenty, sika the palava for northwest and southwest. We country people for Abakpa, the same query for Colonial Republic, suffer mayor say make e come carry the dirty wey e leave am for corner road. Say the dirty don flop sotey e dey block road. We country people for Donga Mantutu, they talk plenty glad and they say thank you for we people wey join for support them for their giraffe day. Now you go shine for corner at TV, you look me fine because I dey come back for knack the tori in the proper. Ambazonia come be dem don block all place for we country, say Republic governor no go pass. Then dey use na ghost town Sunday wey na we country fashion for do am. For the number 21 day for this moon, we people lock outside for Sika country Sunday palava. All business people dem, big one or small one, even with the Republic people dem, they don lock all place. I say Republic people dem too, wey say na dem must to go for that country Sunday go do work, they no fit do work. Some people dem dey use country Sunday too for use am gather with dem family. Dem dey use am too for see how wey they fit rest body. For this week country Sunday so, some we people dey use am for do their sport thing dem. I say they dey knack the Amba, so the Republic governor too don start to dey vex. So SDO for Mezan County, Simon Emi, don give talk say make dem stop all we country people wey dey do Ndamba for that side for Abakpa. But we say this one na style for stop we country Sunday dem. And two, we know say e no go work because say all their plan the way that they ever plan am, they ever fail. Again for tori, Bobe Titus Abang, wey na big man for Bello Quarter, don query sika say dem shoot kill am for night. Ele as he dey try for enter for that side for Abakpa. We never know why they kill this man and the people the way they kill am. Some people no even like this man since dem be make this man big man for Bello Quarter. Now even with this man so wey tori the can reach we say dem kill am and we no know why. Well, wetin this man fit don do where these people go kill am ele so. For another tori my country people, we undaunted come be dem broke with tori say Republic English tori paper dey call grandpa bia say make e find special money wey e go send am for Saudi Cameroon people dem, make e help dem for stand up for their food. Sika say the world don chakara plenty thing dem since 2016. And na the number 7 year this way, Sika the trouble like 50,000 people don query and up to 600 house dem, village dem don burn. Some people dem don disappear. Some people enter Nangata trade. Some people lost na work and business dem. Except the English tori paper too, the lost market, no be small thing. Sika say the people dem way dem dey ever read am, they dey die. Some of them don die plenty. Even big company dem like CDC, palm oil and other big one dem too, where dem dey use to give heavy money for this paper tori people dem. say make dem helep knack tori for we come be dem, make dem hear am fine, dem no dey give the money again. Dis tori now so na Nga Christine wey be big oga for CENPA and publish person for the only English tori newspaper knack with dis tori. Again, we Ambazonian pipo dem for Abakpa don talk tire for dis matter wey Republic Council for Abakpa dey leave plenty dirty for road and for market dem. We pipo dem don talk say tin wey Republic dey do na shame for we. Dem add am too say like say Republic Council dey do am so, dem don start for bring na some new sick like colonial virus because of dirty wey dem no wan carry am. If for dirty wey dem don leave am for corner road na oyelele. For food market and for Tarinkom market, as we undaunted pipo dem dey broke with tori last week, dey say the dirty still turn up for there. Dirty don flood for market sotey comot for road wey even sell motor no fit waka fine. We pipo dem wey dey for there, we business pipo dem, all dem dey complain say Republic pipo don leave dirty for there flop. Dem say Republic pipo no dey even care about the kind of thing wey or the kind of bad thing dem wey e fit happen for dem. Dem dey only look inside na their own palava, waka inside their big motor dem and dey see the dirty so dey dodge and dey pass. But dem must to clean am, na so our pipo dem don talk. Say the dirty wey dem dey leave am so, na dem go come carry am and dem go use am go back for Republic with am. Again for another palava, we go enter for palava Donga Mountain draft my country pipo. For palava Donga Mountain draft my country pipo wey happen na for number 2 day wey e pass so. E be na Saturday 19th for dis same moon wey e be waka fine. Na the money dis way we country pipo dem dey help with buses in the bushes for Donga Mountain. The money comot na 20,000 for American money and we come be dem for Donga Mountain dey show their glad and dem dey talk say thank you for all we country pipo wey comot for that side and for that Saturday for support dem. My own don finish for here, make I give chance for my coming dem wey go come broke tori dey chakara am for una for big grammar, Oni Okpala and Star Smart, make dem continue for broke the tori. My own don finish as I tell una make una remain fine. I don go me.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. It is another Monday for the peoples of Ambazonia on the home front to oust La Republic de Cameroon from its legal territory by observing the Monday ghost towns. After making same efforts during the weekend, drafting bigly for Donga Matun County, the determination to oust La Republic can be seen in its power. With these recent joint efforts from Ambazonians on the home front and in the diaspora. Meanwhile, it is about time that funds who are the custodians of the tradition go back to their subjects and make things right. Nobody is perfect, but it is bad when one fails to acknowledge his flaws. Most of the funds in Ambazonia have destroyed the loving and cordial relationship that existed between them and their people by embarrassing the bad politics served there by the colonial La République du Cameroon. Such funds should return to their people and ask for forgiveness for that first love to return for the posterity and preservation of the culture. Because even if they do not, or they do, the determined people of Ambazonia would not relent in their freedom fight for the restoration and independence of their statehood. Coming up next is the prime headlines.
All right, here are the prime headlines for today. Let's start with the fact that today is another ghost town and Ambazonians frustrate La République du Cameroun activities on Mondays all over Ambazonia. Well, Bamenda, one-time cleaner city in the Cameroons, now the dirtiest. Well, Bamenda denizens remind the in-house slave city mayor his duty as garbage heaps hijack road junctions. Fon Shumichang, the two organizes Bambalang Peace Tournament, not in his village, but in La République du Cameroon town of Bafoussam. Very strange, right? All right, today also another Fon killed. Well, it's a gruesome murder in Belucom. Donga Matun draft. Well, President Saka says Donga Matun is a strategic county and we must take advantage of it. Insecurity in neighboring La République du Cameroon goes a long way as the scandalous death of a colonial French diplomat in Douala becomes very dramatic. On the African scene, we have Sudanese army successfully repelling a significant Assad-Bad rapid support forces. And also on the foreign scene, F-16s already touched down in Ukraine ahead of the Ukrainian Air Force as the BRICS summit is around the corner. What about sports? Spanish FA president criticized for kissing Jenny Hermoso after Spain's World Cup win. Now let's get the news in detail.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC member, a cappella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amba news and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba news, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Opala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is wealth, health education and awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our free spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber history, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amba news and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Frontier and People of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is wealth, health education and awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber history, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
The Colonial Republic, the Cameroon authorities in Ambazonia have done everything humanly possible to fight Monday's ghost town in Ambazonia, but to no avail. Now, this much energy they have invested in fighting ghost town is because it is depriving them economically. These people from the BS regime are losing a lot of money on Mondays with the complete shutdown of Ambazonians on Monday. All those extortion points are locked. Considering the numerous colonial police extortion points in the entire Amazonia and the different oppression offices not being able to work in a day is a big loss. This is the justification as to why the colonial La Republic Cameroon authorities view fighting Monday goes down. The people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia are more than determined to further frustrate La République du Cameroon surrogates and make Ambazonia ungovernable by the colonial La République du Cameroon government. It was another effective ghost town in Ambazonia today, Monday, August 21st, just like the previous ones. This is another Monday. Now let's begin the Undaunted News. How are you doing, Steph?
Oh, very well, Onyi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Today, Monday, August 21st, 2023, is another lockdown of the entire Ambazonia as the population observe the usual day lockdowns. The Colonial Republic run offices are shut down as well. Ambazonians closed their businesses to give the Monday lockdown a deserved observation, from privately owned businesses to markets, not leaving out offices, all locked on this particular day, Monday. The people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia have embraced the call for Monday lockdowns wholeheartedly as they see it another move to oust the colonial La Republic de Cameroon from Ambazonia. To the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Monday's lockdown is a collective sacrifice to give more impetus to the individual contributions to the fight for the restoration of the statehood of former British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia.
Amazonians have adopted different activities to keep themselves busy on Mondays. To others, it is a resting day from a busy work. To some, it is reserved for a family come together or get together and an opportunity to solidify family bonds as everyone is free, while others, it is a day for keeping fit. Seeing the growing number of persons engaged in sporting activities on Monday, the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for Mazam County, Simeon Emil Mo, has issued an order prohibiting mass sporting activities in some areas of Bamenda. Remember, we brought you this report last week. Well, we see that it is a move to fight Monday lockdowns, but just like other field moves in this regard, this one will not be an exception. Well, after the report made by Undaunted on the growing heaps of garbage at major junctions in Bamenda, the inhabitants are asking the colonial Bamenda city to take up her responsibility and clean the town of garbage. The colonial La Republic de Cameroon authorities often made declarations like, all is under control, minimizing the war that is claiming lives every day in Ambazonia.
Well, to match words with action, these surrogates to the BS government are now changing the narrative. The colonial Bamenda city is accusing insecurity as the reason why it is unable to clear the numerous garbage heaps at markets and streets in Bamenda. What does this mean? That things are no longer under control? Is there still normalcy? While the peoples of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, resident in Bamenda, have been criticizing the colonial Bamenda City Council for abandoning decomposing garbage on the streets and in the markets.
The inhabitants described the waste management strategy of the Colonial Bamenda City Council as a monumental disgrace, adding that the Colonial Council is working towards an outbreak of a disease in Bamenda. Heaps of decaying waste are taking over major streets in Bamenda City, other food markets, as well as their Intarinco market, as reported by Undaunted last week. Garbage is extended from the markets into the road, rendering the two-way flow of traffic a one-way flow.
Now, those whose businesses are beside these heaps say that the colonial authorities are not ignorant of the disturbing situation as they see them drive past in their air-conditioned vehicles, that the colonial authorities do not care about them, but they must clean the city. As the duty of the colonial Bamenda City Council, it is spelled out that, amongst other duties, the mayor shall exercise road traffic policing powers within the jurisdiction of his council to ensure public order, safety, tranquility, security, and cleanliness.
The Colonial Bamenda City Council, under the leadership of the in-house slave Paul Achombong as mayor, has also abandoned garbage on major streets in Bamenda. Within the city, citizens are alerted to the stench and buzzing of flies at least 300 meters away from the several garbage heaps littering the town. He says, I feel like throwing up each time I approach my any garbage heaps. Unfortunately, they are everywhere and we cannot escape them, said a city dweller.
At the Interancon market, traders say they have been paying taxes, yet cannot have basic services rendered by the colonial council authorities. A trader at the Interancon market, one of them said, we think it is a must for the Colonial Bamenda City Council authorities to clean the town. They are just being lazy by blaming insecurity for their lack of duty consciousness. While it is gradually becoming a tradition for the current Colonial Bamenda City Council authorities to abandon garbage on the streets, and they must often wait for city dwellers to start complaining before they get action.
Well, moving on, it is high time funds who are the custodians of the tradition go back to their subjects and make things right. Nobody is perfect, but it is bad when one fails to correct his flaws. Most of the funds in Amazonia have destroyed the loving and cordial relationship that existed between them and their people by embracing the bad politics served them by the colonial La Republic of Cameroon. Such funds should return to their people and ask for forgiveness for that first love to return for the prosperity and preservation of the culture.
Now, His Royal Highness von Kelvin Shomitang II of Babalang has organized a football tournament that he titled Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity Tournament. Unfortunately, the tournament will be played in the La Republic town of Bafoussam and not in his village. Are the ancestors of Bambalang now in Bafoussam? A lot might wonder. But what is it that is haunting him such a football tournament to his own village?
Well, the peace, reconciliation, and unity tournaments that under normal circumstances should take place in Bambalang in the Mbauya Confundum will be played in the neighboring La Republic de Cameroon town of Bafoussam. Well, in a press release dated August 16, 2023, His Majesty Fon Kevin Shumitang II of Bambalang, who doubles as the colonial president of the Northwest House of Chiefs, has announced that the above-mentioned game will take place at the Bamendi's Stadium in Bafoussam, West region of La Republic du Cameroon.
Now, this comes at a time when colonial authorities in the restive northern zone of the Federal Republic of Amazonia have continued to strive to present a false image that peace is rapidly returning to the zone. Their actions, such as those of the Fon of Bambalang, say the contrary because the tournament is not played in Bambalang because of insecurity. But the war in Amazonia persisted. Some Fons have been accused of always exercising sealed lips whenever legitimate dialogue is announced.
Reacting to the release, a native of Bambalang who only wanted to be known as Amos said, carrying an activity out of the village is very sad. Well, in his words, he says, we used to have fun whenever such sporting activities were organized in the village. It's been wrapped in the garment of politics and it's now known as Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity Tournament. Sadly, the final has been announced for Bafoussam. He says, I want to be fair. Let our traditional leaders forget about themselves, think about the people, and speak the truth. To Paul Biya, the president, he says, we need dialogue for normalcy to return. Now, it should be noted that Bambalang, found in Ngokentuje County of Amazonia, is one of the hotspots in the ongoing crisis, which is, of course, destroying lives and properties on a regular basis. Well, this sad news goes that Bobenge Nge's Titus Abang, the quarterhead of Bello, who is a second-class chief, was shot dead yesterday evening, that's Sunday evening, few minutes after he returned from Bamenda. The reasons and the perpetrators of the act are not yet known.
Now, some people were not happy with when he was made Bello quarterhead, just when everyone thought that Bello was coming back safely. It became the darkest hour of the dawn before light. Well, the matter is still going through investigations, and definitely once there are any more developments to this, we'll bring it to you on your screen.
Moving on, Saturday was draft for Dunga Manchun County. Well, usually we would take a walk into the president's studio and his speech to give you some analysis. The president, in his presidential speech to by enumerating the numerous massacres. He talked about how some bodies have been dumped in graves unaccounted for, while others are thrown in rivers. Some of the numbers, he says, are conservative. And of course, the president mentioned that the true figures of the killings will only be known when the war would have come to an end. And of course, the Ambazonians taking total control of the Ambazonian territory. He says that Amazonia will continue paying homage to the dead heroes and heroines, as no sacrifice is honorable compared to the loss of lives.
Let us begin this draft session by reflecting on the numerous massacres that are being perpetually carried out in Amazonia by the Yaoundé genocidal regime of La République du Cameroon. More than 50,000 Southern Cameroonians extrajudicially killed, some dumped in mass graves as far as Saint-Melema in the heart of the Bulu Beti land, all in an effort to conceal their atrocity crimes. Others thrown in bushes and rivers or piled up in open graves. Our numbers are conservative. They are conservative estimates based on reported cases by some of our community agents. The true figures of the recorded and unrecorded massacres from Ngabu to Ndu, from Kwakwa, from Pinyin to Mautu, from Ekono Titi to Kumba, from Akwaya to Ekona, from Babisi to Big Babanki, from Nacho will only be known when an independent investigation will be conducted by the government of the Southern Cameroons, Amazonia, or when this war would have come to an end and we have taken total control of our territory. As we prosecute this liberation war, we will continue to honor all those innocent Amazonians whose lives were cut short, not for what they did, but for who they are, Amazonians. We want to continue paying homage to our fallen ARF heroes and heroines, especially those from Dongamanto County, where we are gathered today, and the entire Amazonia. No sacrifice is higher or more honorable than the sacrifice of life for nation.
Also narrated how corrupt La Republic is to the point where they dress up some Atanganji terrorists and fake them as ARF surrendering. Well, just because they want it to look like they are winning the war, they force the public to believe in their lies. The president emphasized that Donga Matung is a strategic county and also a host to La Republique du Cameroon. A giant is awakening in Donga Matung, and he says thanks to all the drafts coming in from all who are drafting. Let's take a video.
La République du Cameroon is surely busy now churning their new menu of lies, putting together their bouquet of deception for their customary audience at the United Nations General Assembly 2023 this September. As usual, they are preparing to say they have won the war against Amazonia, that life has returned to normal, there are just a few pockets of resistance remaining, and that the implementation of their mysterious special status is working, and that their bizarre plan for a reconstruction and DDR at this time is yielding great results. They will surely add one more crazy lie this time, which they hope it will attract tons of endorsement for their mass genocide strategy as the way to deal with the people of the Southern Cameroon Ambazonia, which they collectively refer to as les terrorists. Sometime around early June 2023, La République du Cameroon dressed up a few Atanganji vigilantes to fake a surrender of Amba boys in Diam. None of them had a gun, remember? Not even their so-called general had one. So what were they fighting with? Building on the storyline, early this month, La République du Cameroon gathered some mortar remains from I don't know where and told their gullible followers that those were the remains of the 6 delegates, colonial delegates, that were kidnapped and killed by one FM-10 Kobo in 2020. La République du Cameroon has not prosecuted the self-confessed author they claim to have in custody. They have not ordered for an investigation to ascertain the true perpetrator of the crime. Yet, La République du Cameroon authorities were so sure that the said remains were those of the missing delegates. How come, in this age and time, they hurriedly did what they called a state burial for the six and ordered their corrupt media to carry their narrative for the UN General Assembly meeting in September to have at least some reference? They called it state burial, yet it was without a single minister from amongst the 6 colonial ministries where the victim worked to represent the state. None. Their scriptwriter did a very poor job. And let me tell you what we have found. Our investigation points firmly to a wacky job by La République du Cameroon sponsored vigilante as the actors of this drama.
Well, that was not all. The president spoke highly about the Dogon Manchun ARFs. He says ARFs and Dogon Manchun have countered the enemy forces. Says the counter defense structure of Dogon Manchun is getting stronger as the challenges of Dogon Manchun are enormous because of the location of Dogon Manchun. He encouraged everyone. He says everyone is paying the price because everyone is working together. He said the ARFs of Dungan Manchu will be celebrated and encouraged for all of the defense and security that they have been keeping and doing so far. Let's see how he said it.
Valiant ARFs of Dogamanton County, I salute you and hear you loud and clear. Thank you for your service. You are speaking by your actions, and today we are here for you to support you. You have denied the colonial enemy talks the luxury of enjoying the relative peace they had in this county some time ago. You frustrated the CPDM strategy of bringing in Fulani mercenaries from Nigeria to rape and slaughter our population. You grounded the CPDM strategy of engendering intertribal war between the Bororo cities within your county. You have demonstrated loyalty and patriotism in your collaboration with Bui County and Goketunja within the Savannah zone. Thank you. Brave ARFs, I encourage you to defend your fort like never before. Let our policy of no county left behind in terms of spreading the firepower during this year of acceleration be your motto. We have demonstrated unwavering sacrifice and generosity so far. Thank you.
All right, moving on, reports reaching ABC Amber TV Undaunted News has confirmed that the Vice Chancellor of the Colony of France in neighboring La République du Cameroon, Christian André Mariohu, last Friday, 18th of August, at his residence, according to shocking revelations pops out following the suicide of the colonial French consul. Well, according to reports, several people are said to be missing after the death of this colonial vice chancellor of France in Douala.
Well, our newsroom learned that the colonial French and La République police opened an investigation into the suspicious death of Christian André Marihu. According to ABC Amba TV Undaunted news source, amongst those wanted a certain Tankwa hairdresser in Douala who would have played a central role in the supposed case of visa trafficking at the French consulate in Douala, which would have pushed the French diplomat to death. Thanks to the supposed case of visa trafficking, the latter would have offered herself a lifestyle worthy of a princess. It is said she has been spending all her holiday in France with her children and several governesses.
Well, another person actively wanted is a certain Ismail Enjoyer, the brains of the gang in the supposed visa trafficking affair. Former executive of the Balor Group, the latter would have received nearly 1.5 billion in this scandalous affair. Since the announcement of the death of the colonial French diplomat, the latter is said to have taken to their heels. It is rumored that several personalities will be questioned, including a very powerful traditional chief. In the wake of this affair, 4 people were fired from the French consulate in Douala.
It is alleged that for a visa of 6 to 12 months, it was necessary to pay around 3 million francs CFA. With 2 million francs CFAs more, the client was entitled to additional 2-year visa. Christian Andre Marie dies at the age of 66. As a reminder, he was born on June 7, 1957 in Mazingerbe, France. Until his death, he held the position of Deputy Consul of Colonial France in La République, as well as that of Head of Chancery at the Consulate General of France in Douala. Now, in northern Africa, Sudan, the war in Sudan is still ongoing, with more killed and thousands more displaced. Recent reports has it that the Sudanese army successfully repelled a significant assault by the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) on the armored corps headquarters within the Al Shajara military area, resulting in substantial casualties and equipment damage. Starting early on Sunday morning, intense confrontations unfolded between the warring factions in the military zone and the armored corps located south of the capital, Khartoum. The exchange of artillery fire between the army and RSF generated loud explosions echoing in Sport City, Al Sahafa, and Al Usra. The army spokesperson issued a statement on Sunday night affirming, quote, our forces stationed in the Al Shajara military area thwarted numerous Fatah attack attempts by the rebel militia on the armored corps and the ammunition complex.
While in East Africa, the Somali government on Sunday ordered a ban on TikTok, Telegram, and an online betting site, claiming that these platforms were being used by terrorists and groups spreading immorality to disseminate violent images and videos, misleading public opinions, and for propaganda purposes. The decision comes ahead of the second phase of the military offensive against the radical Islamist Shabab, who have been waging a bloody insurrection against the central government in Mogadishu for more than 15 years. In a statement, the Ministry of Communication and Technology said it had ordered internet providers to cut off access to the 3 platforms by August 24th, failing which legal action would be taken, the nature of which was not specified.
And in Southern Africa, in a message to mark SADC Southern African Development Community Day, which is celebrated annually on 17th August, the outgoing SADC Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo of the Democratic Republic of Congo said the regional organization is still relevant and will remain so for a long time to come. Since the historic decision by the founders to establish the regional organization, it has consistently demonstrated solidarity and unity in addressing the many challenges that the region is facing. President Tshisekedi said the region has achieved a number of milestones that they should be proud of. On taking over the rotating presidency of the Southern African Development Community, Angola's President Joao Lorenzo pledges to diversify sources of funding for industry and to rely less on international partners. The president called on the member states of the SADC to speed up the ratification of a key fund aimed at raising finance for industrial investment. João Lorenzo, speaking after accepting the 1 year rotating presidency of the SADC, had this to say.
Neste ano de presidência, procuraremos trabalhar de forma esmerada e com sentido de responsabilidade, no sentido de fazermos frente de forma unida aos grandes desafios presentes e futuros que a nossa organização tem pela frente. A questão da mulher e o seu papel no desenvolvimento integral da nossa região, com vista à construção de uma sociedade de maior justiça social, será um dos pontos importantes da nossa atuação. Neste ano de presidência, procuraremos trabalhar de forma esmerada e com sentido de responsabilidade, no sentido de fazermos frente de forma unida aos grandes desafios presentes e futuros que a nossa organização tem pela frente. A questão da mulher e o seu papel no desenvolvimento integral da nossa região, com vista à construção de uma sociedade de maior justiça social, será um dos pontos importantes da nossa atuação.
Lorenzo pledges to work on diversifying the sources of funding for projects and programs at member state and regional levels. He said he aimed to reduce the region's dependency on international cooperation partners, who he said were always helpful.
Well, and in West Africa, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has rejected the 3-year transition plan proposed by Niger's public military junta. It will be recorded that the coup leader, General Abdulrahman Tichani, had at a meeting with ECOWAS delegation led by General Abdusalami Abubakar retired in Niamey on Saturday, proposed the military government would return Niger's republic to democracy in 3 years. Abdul Fattah Musa, ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, told the BBC in an interview yesterday that the proposal was unacceptable to ECOWAS, setting the ground for a military operation. Meanwhile, thousands of Nigerians flooded the streets yesterday declaring support for the military junta.
Now, their demonstration came against the backdrop of ECOWAS' insistence on invading the country to rout out coupists should diplomacy fail to restore ousted President Mohamed Bazoum to power. The rally came on a day an official of the government in Niger said talks between the ECOWAS delegation, led by former head of state General Abdusalami Abubakar, retired, and the junta achieved very little result. The official also noted that already there are deep division within the presidential guard, which ousted President Bazoum, saying should ECOWAS launch an attack on Niger Republic, the majority of soldiers in the presidential complex will flee. This is even as Pope Francis yesterday canvassed a diplomatic solution to the political crisis.
The demonstrators chanted slogans hostile to former colonial power, France, and especially ECOWAS, which is considering a potential military operation to reinstate elected President Mohamed Bazoum if ongoing negotiations with coup leaders fail. The Sahel states' new military leaders have officially banned demonstration, but in protest, those in support of the coup are allowed to go ahead. The demonstrators waved placards saying stop the military intervention and no to sanctions in reference to the financial and trade restrictions imposed by ECOWAS 4 days after the coup on July 26th. Yesterday's pro-coup rally was accompanied by musicians praising the new military regime, according to AFP.
Now, the latest in a string of pro-coup rallies came a day after the new military ruler in Niamey warned that an attack on Niger would not be a walk in the park. General Abdurrahman Tiani also said in a televised address at the weekend that he did not wish to confiscate power and that a transition of power back to civilian rule would not go beyond 3 years. Niger's new leaders have accused France, a close Bazoum ally, of being behind the anti-coup stance taken by ECOWAS, which again at the weekend made a fresh push for a diplomatic solution.
Well, according to AFP, after ECOWAS chief of staffs met in the Ghanaian capital Accra on Friday, the 17-nation bloc said it had agreed on a date for a potential intervention, but nonetheless sent a diplomatic delegation to Niamey on the weekend led by General Abdul Salami Abubakar. Niger television showed delegation members shaking hands with Bazoum, who remains in detention. It also broadcast footage of Abubakar speaking to Tichani, but the content of the exchange had not been made public. In his televised address on Saturday, Tichani alleged that ECOWAS was getting ready to attack Niger by setting up an occupying army in collaboration with a foreign army without saying which country he meant. The coup leader, Tichani, however, warned that the military and the people of Niger would defend the country should ECOWAS go ahead with the invasion plan.
Now, talks between ECOWAS, Niger's junta yield little, officials tell Associated Press. However, an official in Niamey, Niger Republic's capital, said on condition of anonymity yesterday that weekend's 2-hour meeting between Niger's new military regime and a delegation from the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, yielded very little result. It was the first time head of the junta, General Abdurrahman Chiani, met with the ECOWAS delegation after rebuffing previous attempts. Saturday's meeting was a last-ditch diplomacy scramble by ECOWAS to resolve the crisis peacefully and followed last week's announcement that 11 of its 15 member states had agreed to intervene militarily if democratically elected President Bazoum was not released from house arrest and reinstated. The bloc's 3 other countries under military rule, Guinea, Mali, and Burkina Faso, were not included. The latter two had categorically warned previously that they would consider intervention in Niger an act of war. And for some obscure reason, ECOWAS is still going with that option, which makes us wonder what their interest in Bazoum reinstatement actually means for them.
Well, the official noted that during the weekend talks, Tichani pushed for the lifting of ECOWAS, an economic and travel sanction imposed by ECOWAS after the coup, saying Niger's population was suffering because of them. The junta said they were under pressure at times, striking a conciliatory tone and apologizing for past disrespect towards the bloc, while also defiantly standing by its decision to overthrow Bazoum and unequivocal about him not returning to power. Tichani also repeatedly expressed concerns that his former colonial ruler France, which has some 1,500 troops in the country and had been providing training and conducting joint operations with Niger's military, was actively planning an attack.
Now, according to the official, Niger was seen by many Western countries as the last democratic partner in the region they could work with to beat back to a growing jihadi insurgency by militant groups linked with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. But then the question is, how democratic was Niger's democracy?
Well, he noted that France, the United States, and other European nations had poured hundreds of millions of dollars into shoring up Niger's army, adding that the coup had been seen as a major setback. There seems to be a very great interest in Niger for the Western colony or colonial powers. Well, there is a lot yet to be unraveled about the coup in Niger, the purpose of it, what the West stands to lose or gain if Bazoum is or isn't reinstated. A lot that we cannot just unravel in today's broadcast, but as always, we will bring more light on this matter subsequently. Well, on the global scene, let's start with the Ukraine and Russian war. F-16 already touched down in Ukraine, head of Ukraine's efforts said. Lieutenant General Mayuka Oleshok, head of Ukraine's efforts, said that the Ukrainian pilots have experience operating Western-made F-16 fighter jets, which have already touched down on Ukraine's airfield.
Well, the U.S. has approved a sale of 22 HIMARS missiles system, dozens of precision-guided GMLRS and GMLRSER projectiles with a launch range of up to 150 kilometers to Australia for 975 million US dollars.
While Ukraine destroys 3 Russian ships, Kyiv says a more vessel flee. Ukraine destroyed 3 subversive Russian boats in the south of the Western country in less than a day. Kyiv's military has claimed as civilian ships are reported to be moving away from the area of the Black Sea where Ukraine is increasingly targeting Moscow's assets.
Now, Moscow plans to settle 300,000 Russians in temporarily captured Mariupol. The invaders plan to settle 300,000 Russian citizens in Mariupol captured by the invasion army.
Well, also, the U.S. military is making plans to evacuate its drone base in Niger, but no such order is imminent, said Air Force General James Hacker, who is the commander of the U.S. Air Forces to Europe and Africa. And down to the report for tonight. Let's go to BRICS currency. In their push to dethrone the US dollar as the world's largest reserve currency, the BRICS nation, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been chalking up the idea of a common currency for years. But Jim O'Neill, the veteran economist who coined the term BRIC, said the group did not originally include South Africa when he worked at Goldman Sachs in 2001. Well, he blasted the plan this week by saying it is just ridiculous. He says they are going to create a BRICS central bank. He asked, how would you do that? He's asking the BRICS.
Well, the BRICS nations will meet for their 15th annual summit next week, but O'Neill, now senior advisor at UK-based think tank Chatham House, argued that the group of nations has never achieved anything since they first started meeting in 2009 amid consistent infighting. The push for de-dollarization amongst BRICS nations has heated up since the war in Ukraine began, as crippling Western sanctions on Russia were enabled by the dollar's dominance. Meanwhile, in April, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva urged the group to develop a serious alternative to the dollar using the combined weight of their economies.
Well, why can't we do trade based on our own currencies? He said on a state trip to China in April. The Financial Times first reported that. It says, who was it that decided that the dollar was the currency after the disappearance of the gold standard? Despite the ongoing talk of de-dollarization, nearly 60% of global currency reserves were held in the US dollars in 2022, and 88% of international transactions use the dollar. According to IMF data, and Wall Street doesn't seem to be worried about serious competitor to the greenback either.
Now, Dylan Creamer, co-chief investment officer at Certuity, which manages nearly $4 billion in assets, said that the development of a common BRICS currency, quote, according to him, is just a talk track, referencing the talking points salespeople bring to client meetings. BRICS nation, when combined, according to him, lack the political stability to make investors confident in a combined currency.
All right, and in sports, let's meet Gab Ellison. The sports news tonight seems to be juicy. All right, thank you so much, God Ellison, for that sports report. And with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted here tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at the major stories.
And Undaunted tonight, we brought to you another lockdown in Ambazonia. We brought to you Bamenda, one-time cleanest city in the Cameroons, now the dirtiest. How can a Ambalang peace tournament be played in La Republic town was one puzzle we solved on Undaunted tonight. Another fun also was killed in our reports of today, the gruesome murder in Bello Cone.
Well, President Sako said Dogomanchun is a strategic county and we must take advantage of it. Also tonight, we looked at the scandalous death of a colonial French diplomat in the Douala. African Report, we looked at the Sudanese army successfully repelling a significant assault by the Rapid Support Forces. And on the foreign scene, FC already touched down in Ukraine as head of Ukraine forces has allotted the word. In sports, Gab Ellison told us the Spanish FA president criticized for kissing Jenny Hermoso after Spain's World Cup win. And that was it for tonight. Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of just my entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
I'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Good night and God bless you.